Is California actually going to the ACC? Starting to hear rumors and rumblings from sources of ours that Cal is not exactly a done deal to the ACC. Now, let's not get this twisted. I think at the end of the day, Cal winds up in the ACC. But the biggest question here is who's going to subsidize that. Cal Berkeley has a massive financial hole to dig itself out of. Memorial Stadium, where Cal Berkeley plays football, is a money suck because there is so much debt on top of that stadium, which they rebuilt about a decade ago now. The issue becomes, what will the UC, the University of California Board of Regents, who oversees all education at the college level in California, do next week when its Board of Regents meet next Tuesday? The answer probably is hand a large bill on an annual basis to UCLA. But, Jake, does it really make a lot of sense for Cal Athletics to live and die on the financial capability of UCLA to pay its bills?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's tough. I think that that's a situation where you're sitting here in Cal's shoes and you're trying to get to a better place, a better situation, just a better overall picture for your brand, and yet you're sitting here having to wait for yet another institution to help you. And I think that's kind of the thing that really stands out with this ACC expansion situation, is that you have so many schools in the conversation that need help. I mean, again, like Stanford, I guess, doesn't necessarily need help, but Stanford needs a home, and in that sense, they need help. Cal needs a home. Cal needs help with money. Like, Cal needs help with a lot of different things. So they're on that list. I look at SMU, they're on that list. So yeah, is it great that Cal needs UCLA to help them do X, Y, and Z? No, that's not good. And I think that in realignment, and specifically ACC expansion, you look at this situation and the schools that are joining are these three that really are part of a bigger picture. Because again, I go back to this concept of the have and the have-nots. The haves don't need help, right? SC, UCLA, like all these schools that got into a new conference don't need any help because they make a bunch of money, they do well in football, like everything's the way it should be. And then you have this other group of schools that were Power 5 caliber that are not in a good place and do need help and seemingly are always in the middle of, hey, where are you going here? Why are you going there? How are we going to pay for this building renovation? Or what are we feeding the kids at lunch this day? Like, that's what I feel like we're always talking about with Cal. Now, Stanford's a little bit different because of the endowment. It's much more of a premise thing, much more of a, hey, we don't really care about athletics as much as other schools, so this is why we find ourselves in this situation. Okay, they're a one-off example. But I just think that there's a lot of desperation in this conversation. There's a lot of these schools that have been put in bad positions because, like Cal is a good example of an institution that wanted to restore or rejuvenate their football facilities because they knew at some point their football team had to get better. Their football team has to pay the bills for all the other sports. Yet here we are sitting here talking about a massive debt load because you renovated your football stadium and you still don't win football games. And you're trying to now find a new home because your conference burned to the ground under that very same management style. And now you're left to just kind of sit on your hands and hope. And I think that's what's difficult for Cal. That's the problem with the situation.
Well, I also think there is a significant amount of dysfunction in this Board of Regents. I think we've seen this before. Funny enough, it's when UCLA was trying to get to the Big Ten, and the California Board of Regents was doing everything they could do to try and, stop that move with George Kliavkoff's infamous back-of-the-envelope calculations and all of the ridiculous misinformation that was being used to try and undermine UCLA's ability to leave the conference. I think Cal is in a very different situation. I think most people in this situation would like to see Cal end up in the ACC. And I'm told that it's probably 90-10 that happens. And I'm also told that the California Board of Regents is not trying to stop that move. They're trying to pay for that move. And I think that is a significant part of this equation because if you're Cal, I don't know how you afford the travel and the infrastructure costs that's coming with this move to the ACC. And, the bigger issue here is I don't believe that UCLA can singularly cover those shortfalls. We're talking about tens of millions of dollars that you simply don't have access to anymore, and you're not going to have access to for probably 3 years coming. That's a long time, especially when you're trying to pay off debt load for your football stadium. So I don't think this is easy, but Jake, I also think Cal's going to the ACC. I don't see any way this doesn't happen.
Yeah, I mean, I just think it's about finding whatever the path is going to be financially, because, again, this is all about finances. I mean, again, if Cal wasn't in debt load, we wouldn't even be having this conversation today. But they are, and they do need help. And I think that the real question, I feel like, that's kind of on the forefront of college football is, like, how much weight do we put into heritage brand versus dying business model in current day? Like, Cal is this brand that obviously is in California and has some nice little heritage to it, and obviously is an educational power and, like, has these nice things about it.
Right.
But ultimately, the business model and the way they've done things isn't really providing them success. And so it's this conversation of, like, yeah, Cal's cool, and obviously their education's always going to be fine, but who's going to be the first school that used to play sports? Like, if 5 years from now Washington State doesn't play sports anymore, who's going to be that first school that says, you know what? Yeah, we're just not that guy, pal. Like,
we're
Stanford.
not that guy, pal.
Yeah, like Stanford. Hey, Stanford gets this bad name for not being good in football, but nobody ever wants to talk about the fact that they have one of the best athletic departments in the country. So Stanford's that guy in the room that's like, yeah, dude, like, I roll up in my Honda Civic wearing a hoodie, but I own a $1 billion tech company and I have all this kind of money. That's who Stanford is in the room. And then you've got Cal, who just can't seem to figure it out. And that's what's tough. Like, sometimes I wonder, why are we so desperate to have some of these brands get into a Power 5 conference? Maybe they're not a fit.
I don't know.
Like, maybe we should just get it out there and say it, be uncomfortable with it. Like, maybe Cal, or maybe like I love this concept of, hey, Oregon State's not a fit in a Power 5 conference, but Cal somehow just has to be rubber stamped into the ACC. That's what I think is really interesting about realignment and expansion. We just sort of one-off brands, even though Oregon State's got new facilities, even though Oregon State's in a much better financial position, even though Oregon State has a better football program. Like, yet we just don't want to talk about them. That's what's funny to me.
I guess I'm just in a different place. I feel like you're in a position where I think this is life or death for Cal athletics. And I'm not trying to be dramatic about it. This is an athletic program that lives and dies on football wins. And I think you hired Mark Madsen, and I think that is a really good move for your basketball program. I think what he did at Utah Valley UVU was spectacular. But basketball, to steal Jake's terminology, basketball's the butter, not the bread. The bread is football. The bread is football here. And there's no doubt about the fact that Cal football continues to be disappointing. And whether you fire Wilcox or not at the end of the year as the head coach at Cal, it almost doesn't matter, because you have got to find a way to play in big games. And these non-conference paydays, Cal has no access to that. Nobody wants to see Cal football. If we're being brutally honest, and I'm not trying to pigeonhole Cal into any kind of death sentence no matter where they go, but it almost feels that way. Until California, the Golden Bears, start winning big-time football games and start competing for top half even of their conference, now the Pac-12, soon to be the ACC, what does any of this matter? Because they're going to be a cesspool of I don't know what's the right way to say it, a cesspool of what's wrong with college football and these major conferences we talk about, because half of the teams in the SEC right now are not exactly printing athletic money. And I know that I pick on Vanderbilt a lot, but when's the last time you were like, hot damn, Vandy's on, gotta go watch that game? Meanwhile, Deion Sanders shows up at Colorado, and all of a sudden two really bad teams a month ago, Colorado and Nebraska. Well, it turns out Deion's 2-0, and 8.8 million people watched that game. But yet Cal can't draw up 600,000. Cal can't draw fans to come and watch the game, but Prime at Colorado is sold out for the year. Do you see how this script has been flipped? You either want to make money or you want to be Cal. And that's why I say maybe Cal is the best example of what's wrong with college athletics right now. You decided that you weren't going to do everything you could possibly do to win, if you even go back to the names like Jeff Tedford at Cal, right? That was probably the last time that Cal was like, yep, we are committed. We're all in. You weren't all in for Sonny Dykes. That's why he's not there anymore. Mm-hmm. You've had opportunities to win, and you've let Coach Wilcox just be an average football coach and done nothing about it. And now all of a sudden the conference melted down, and half of the people in the Pac-12 are like, well, shit, what are we going to do now? We're broke. Well, guess what, Cal? You're going to be broke because you're not making more money. You're spending more money. And you can push UCLA into trying to subsidize you all you want, but I got news for you. It doesn't matter because you're not going to the ACC to win the conference. You're never going to be Clemson. You're never going to be Florida State. You're never going to be North Carolina in football. Never. And now the other thing that I think a lot of people haven't wanted to recognize, look at what Mario Cristobal is doing at Miami.
Facts.
Look at what they're doing at Miami. All of a sudden he's winning games he wasn't supposed to win. Jimbo Fisher be damned. Mm-hmm. All of a sudden, the ACC is a little better than most people thought. And I don't think this move for Cal makes a whole hell of a lot of sense. Now, am I telling you that they should go the way of Oregon State or Washington State? I'm not. But maybe the crown jewel that was left in the Pac-12 wasn't Cal and Stanford. Maybe it was Oregon. Mm-hmm. Or Oregon State, excuse me. Maybe that's the reality of it.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And again, I think that, there are a lot of people who just want to say like, hey, Cal's a heritage brand and they should be in a conference. Well, I'm getting a little tired of that because ultimately, and we're going to have a whole conversation a little later in the program about ESPN and Spectrum and how you want to watch your sports and all that good stuff, right? But just put that on the back burner while we're having this conversation and think about, hey, when's the last time you actually watched Cal athletics of any variety?
Dude, I can't pull it.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't tell you the last, forget going out of my way to watch it. I can't tell you the last time I even just ran into it. I literally don't know. I don't know. And that's what troubles me is wow, I watched Oregon State last year. I watched Oregon State make it possible for Utah to win the Pac-12 last year, right? I watched that game. So, with Oregon State, I can at least say, yeah, dude, you guys are the troublemakers in the Pac-12 on the football field. Nobody wants to give you credit, and you're out here punching people in the mouth. I love that. But you just can't get pushed, and so it makes me wonder. Do people hate Oregon because of the status and because of the college football playoff that they never made? Is that why you hate Oregon? But then when we get to Oregon State, you also hate them because they don't do marketing and you don't know who coaches them and you have no idea who they're athletic. There's so much hypocrisy in the conversation. And that's why I say, whether you hate programs like SC or Oregon or Mac Brown at UNC, whoever you want to point to, the big boys are the big boys because they're consistently winning. And the only reason that Stanford can do what Stanford's doing is because they got bread. That's it. That's literally it.
Yeah, I am continually, I don't know, shocked. I'm tired of saying stunned and shocked. But I'll be honest with you. It's shocking to me that the Pac-12 fell apart and schools like Washington State are like, oh, now what? Oh, I didn't see this one coming.
What do you mean you didn't see it coming, dude?
That's how they're acting.
It is.
And so when I look at Cal, you have debt, you're not making money, and you're insolvent athletically. Well, why is that? Because you don't win on the field and the court. You don't have Stanford's endowment. You're up the freeway in the Bay Area, and you don't have Stanford's endowment.
Because it's garbage.
You're not, nobody's on par with Stanford academically, but you're close. You're absolutely an institution of higher learning.
But you don't even need to be Stanford academically to be in a better place. That's
Yeah.
the sad part about it. Like, everyone wants to say, oh, Stanford's all world. We could never be them. Well, last time I checked, nobody said you had to be Stanford. Last time I checked, nobody's saying, hey, be Stanford or be dead.
Be Stanford or be dead.
Right? Like, nobody's saying that about Cal. And I have to agree. I guess we'll call it ignorance, or maybe
ignorant.
I mean, whatever you want to call it, like just being naive about the fact that the conference is burning down and you're going to be put in a very vulnerable position more than you already were is incredible.
Yeah, it is. It is. I don't know if it's naive. I don't know what it is. But every time we talk about a university in the Pac-12 that's just they can't believe it's happening to them. And this time it's Cal. Are we the only two? I mean, I know we're just a couple of hacks on YouTube, but are you telling me that we're the only two that for the better part of a year have been hitting the panic button repeatedly and saying, hey, you're screwed. Hey, by the way, you're screwed. 8 months, you're going to be screwed. I'm going to hit the panic. And you're like, nah, bro, not going to happen. Not going to happen. Not going to happen. Oh, hey, by the way, it happened. Oh, man, what do you mean?
It's going to go into crisis lockdown mode here at the house.
It happened. What happened? Exactly. And it's why USC and UCLA and Oregon and Washington and Utah and Nebraska, look at teams on the lower end in these big conferences, and I bring up Nebraska specifically. Nebraska's been irrelevant for a decade until now, when Trev Alberts came back several years ago, and now he hired Matt Rule. Why is Colorado not irrelevant? Because now they have flipped the script on academics, and they've said, hey, we're going to make it a little easier to get athletes in. By the way, I think we're going to hire Louis. We're gonna hire a new head coach, and it's gonna be Louis.
By the way, can I just, while we're talking about Deion, because I know I'm the Deion guy on the show, right? Like I'm the guy.
You definitely are.
I'm the guy that 5 months ago was saying that Deion's gonna do great things, and everyone wanted to call me stupid, right? So that's me.
Well, that hasn't changed.
I know that hasn't changed. Can I just say the absolute highlight reel of things Deion said is truly getting incredible. I mean,
why?
The guy,
what do you mean?
The guy just has, like, it used to be, oh, it's Deion, man, it's Deion. Like, that's just his style. But, when he rolled in that first speech ever and said, yeah, I'm coming, and I'm bringing my baggage, and it's Louis. And now that baggage known as Shedeur Sanders and Shiloh Sanders looks really nice right now. Like, Shedeur has come through, and I just think that the Pac-12 needed to do something like this 5 years ago.
Yeah, I totally agree. Speaking of the highlight reel, I think this is a really important conversation too. While you will listen to Coach Prime be Coach Prime, ask yourself this question too. Is Deion Sanders the proof that the transfer portal is good for college football?
We got a few positions already taken care of because I'm bringing my luggage with me. And it's Louis.
Now that I'm coaching, not a darn thing. I'm not even playing the game, and you got an opinion of me. I'm not even on the field. But I'm pretty sure I get every darn coach I'm playing against, head coaches, and anything you want to do. But I love it, but I don't care. And I wish the world thought like that. I don't have time to enjoy the moment. Santa don't have time. He got to deliver the gifts. He ain't got time to enjoy his cookies. Okay? That's all he gets. I ain't got time for that. I got to keep it going. I got to keep this machine going and make sure we stay on the right path and make sure we're locked in and we're focused on the right things. Make sure we're practicing adequately. Make sure we're giving it our all. Making sure we're making the right adjustments and playing the proper personnel. So it's a lot. It's a lot driving this train. It's not easy.
What's up, boss? You believe that? Hold on. Oh, no. Do you believe in that? Huh? Oh, no. I read through that bull junk you wrote down. I read through that. I sifted through all that. Yeah. Oh, no. Come on. Do you believe?
That bull junk you wrote. I mean, I think it is remarkable that Deion Sanders has completely flipped the script. First of all, again, if you don't like Deion Sanders, if you are not a fan of Deion, I don't understand what you are a fan of.